1979, and as a choreographer, artist, and initiator of Freiraum, an interdisciplinary, collaborative, conceptual, and working space for the arts and sciences. And after studying stage, dance, and choreography at the Folkwang Hochschule, Riepe was engaged as a dancer with Pina Bausch and V.A. Wölfli, among others, and since 2008 he has been creating his own works. And his award-winning performances, videos, and digital productions are shown worldwide. And one of his workshops we just experienced. Then next to me I have Maren Butte. She's assistant professor for performance studies at the Institute for Media and Cultural Studies at Heinrich Heine University in Düsseldorf. And she researches on artistic formats between theater and media. And then we have another guest, Haytham El-Wardany. He lives and works in Berlin, and his latest book, Jackals and the Missing Letters, considers expressions of hope within Arabic fables, where animals speak in a moment of post-Arab Spring speechlessness. And he's the recipient of the Keith Haring Fellowship in Art and Activism of 2022 and 23. And of course, he's also the author of the very interesting Book of Sleep, which we're going to talk about today a little bit, which has extremely interesting insights on sleep and dreaming. And yes, I also want to take the opportunity to thank the Medienwerk NRW for putting on this workshop and this discussion. I think we have somebody from the Medienwerk here. Thank you. Thank you also for putting on a symposium that Maren, I, and Ben that was made possible with the financial support from the Medienwerk in 2021. We did a symposium on the senses and the sensuality in new media. Doing that in 2022? Yeah. All correct?
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. All right, to start off the discussion, and by the way, we're going to do the discussion in English, but all of us speak German too, so if there's any comments or questions in German, that's fine. First of all, I want to ask about Haytham's thoughts, about your thoughts about this workshop, because you have some perspective on sleep and dreaming, and I think this was sort of somewhere in between. What are your impressions on what we just experienced?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a really nice surprise for me, because yeah, I'm really very happy when people are interested in the theme of sleep or inactivity or dreams, because these are some of the themes which interest me a lot. So when Maren invited me, I thought, oh wow, yes, I'll come, of course. And so it was a really nice surprise to meet you all and to be among a group of, I think, primarily dancers, or who come from, like a performative artist background. Yeah, while I was, like lying on my back at the last part, I was thinking about many things. I thought it's interesting that I keep coming back to two moments which really interest me a lot in sleep, which are the moment of letting go, surrendering, and the moment of awakening. And through the workshop, like there was different variations of these two moments, right? And yes, like for me, you know, like I can speak a little bit about these two moments and how, like from which perspective my interest in these two moments. But you know, like these two moments, they don't exist in vacuum. Rather, they are two moments of a process of, yeah, we have seen in the workshop, you know, like activities, inactivities, process of sleep, slumber, awakening, etc. So I don't know, should I, do you want me to talk a little bit about these two moments, or how I...
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Because I think indeed what we just experienced has something to do with the difference between, you know, waking and activity and sleeping and inactivity, and how these two connect, how they are sort of two things really belonging together.
Right, yeah, totally. So maybe let me start with, you know, the moment of falling asleep, right? Like the moment of letting go of, as we all, or maybe many of us experience or are experiencing, the moment of letting go or, you know, like falling asleep sometimes is not easy, because sometimes there is something in your mind, you are occupied with something, you don't want to miss something, you know. But at the same time, you are very tired, and your focus is not, you know, like at its best, and you need to sleep. So there is this kind of small conflict, and this conflict of wanting what you cannot, you know, sustain, so to speak, was very expressive for myself, you know, like when I started working on this book, because it was a very specific moment in the history of Egypt in the last 10 years, or, you know, many of you, I'm sure, heard about the Arab Spring. And when I started working on this book, you know, like this was a twilight, a similar twilight moment, a moment of, you know, you want to stay awake because there are many things need to be done, but at the same time, you could see the coming disaster, which nothing can stop it somehow, and no matter what you are doing, you know. Yeah, so I started working on this book, and this twilight moment was, you know, very important for me. And through the book, it's a journey, you know, like to summon the healing powers of sleep, of letting go, but not in a defeatist way, but rather, you know, doing this to collect hope of a new beginning. And this is like the second moment, the moment of awakening. And I think this is one of the most precious gifts or presents of sleep, which is the possibility of a new beginning, of a new day, of to see things anew, to start to see what was looked over and not noticed, for instance. Yeah, so although often sleep and inactivity and, you know, passivity are seen as, you know, some defeatist activities, or the opposite of revolution, Aufstand, you know, uprise, etc. Yet I think there is something very important happening there, also from the perspective of politics, because activities like sleeping or like listening or like drifting or like not being able to decide, or all these activities, they help us to question rationality, to question the subject as, the powerful agent, to question, to question many of the central things which we keep kind of coming back to, and there are many lessons which we can learn from inactivities. They are called inactivities, but they are full of activities. They are full of things happening there. Please.
For those who don't know the book, it's very interesting because to me it's something like a very poetic research about sleep, but it also has some kinds of autobiographical statements and stories. And for me it was very interesting to dive into this world, which I was not participating in, but you made this state of being in the midst so palpable with the writing about sleep. What I found really interesting after this workshop, where I really dozed off for a minute, I have never been sleeping in a room with so many people before, except from trips to Jugendherbergen. But it felt really interesting to be sleeping in a group and to make this state in between a piece of collaborative work. And to me it was something like we were generating lots of energy in this room and creating energy, and then we lay down and we just lay in the room of energy. So there was something political in the air, and when I listened to this beautiful music, which you, I don't remember the composer, but you worked with him a lot, I know. I remembered passages from your book. You have also a part where you describe a practice of sleeping in the same room. Can you elaborate on this? Because we have not been there, we don't know what happened.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It takes a lot of trust and openness to share a space through sleeping, right? And one of the references in the book is the time of there was a huge sit-ins, like during the 2011, and afterwards sit-in was a form of social protest, and part of the sit-in was, to make a sit-in is to occupy a room or a space collectively, and part of the activities which were happening there was to sleep over, right? Like just to sleep over, and sleeping over means, not to be alert, although it is a dangerous moment, but just, collectively enjoy a moment of trust and just sleep. And these were, moments which were very strong and very. I was trying, to work through, what exactly had happened and how was it possible to, to occupy a public space with people with whom you didn't have nothing to do, or you see for the first time, and yet there is this power of, there's this transformative power of sleep which makes all of these people, come together, or, trust each other. And yeah, I mean, this experience of sharing a room through sleep takes different shapes in the book, right? Like, there is also this other moment of, you know, I think many of us have seen this, sleeping in public traffics, right? Like, you know, like, and this is also, you know, a form of occupying a public space through our bodies, but accepting, you know, or maybe hoping that I can be vulnerable in front of many others and just sleep and trust that nothing wrong will happen to myself. And I think this gesture is doubly strong because on one hand, you know, it shows trust. On the other hand, it shows vulnerability and does not cover or hide vulnerability, but it's a kind of trust through vulnerability somehow.
Thank you.
Yes, I think some of this kind of vulnerability of sleeping together, of having this bodily inactive, you know, experience, some of this we experience today. And when I think a lot of your workshops and some of your performances work with this kind of moment, with this kind of creation of energy, of this release of energy and doing it, you know, together in public. How do you go about, you know, creating this kind of experience? How can you curate a moment like this? How can you build that trust?
It's very much about the flow, I think, and about the moment and about experience. I'm very interested in experience, actually, because this is why I work with this kind of material, so to speak, of sleeping, dreaming, or also different kinds of consciousness, like being out of your mind when you go into this kind of ecstatic dancing, or different kinds of layers of consciousness, and also the like subconsciousness or whatever. So the dreaming can be a very interesting source, but also I think sleeping is so interesting also for me. Like when I was younger, I always thought I can sleep when I'm dead, because somehow sleeping is something in our society which is it is unproductive, right? We think it is unproductive. So somehow I also started to understand that it's somehow also a protest to our very productive society, and it is also. I think especially for artists, because artists, they are more allowed, but also still they are being treated maybe a bit lazy, not to work, you know, not to work all the time. And I've been working, and also the Freiraum is one idea of giving a space for artists not to work. Because I also think it's a very important, like you said, a very important state of mind where actually everything is happening. But maybe in a way that we don't do it with our mind, we don't think like straightforward from A to B, but it's something like I develop many practices for myself also to come into moments where I don't really think or I don't really work, but these moments are the moments my ideas are coming. I have to allow myself to let go every time. And this is an artistic practice for me, which I found extremely important, and I think it's also very politically, because we have to actually, I wanted to make sure that politicians understand artists will always work, even if they're not working. like in the holidays, it's the other way around. They're all workaholics, right? So in the holidays, in the cafe, in the night, they're always working. And even if it doesn't look like. And this is a very important state, and actually it's a strategy. And I think this strategy is so important. Yeah, and there are many other aspects to it, of this being active and passive and going through different nervous systems of, you know, the sympathicals and the parasympathicals. And there are many things of which we miss in society actually nowadays, that we are only active and then we collapse, whatever. And this in-between states, and we don't learn anymore to dive into the in-between states. And I think it's so enjoyable and it's so important. And not, yeah, even in art, I think we just want to understand it, we want to analyze it, we want to, you know, it's all with the brain, but not to experience it. And this is why I go this way. So, yeah, there are many things to say about it.
Yes, and indeed I think our culture tends to, you know, mark sleeping as something very different from waking and something that's unproductive. And this is somewhat of a tradition that I think in modernity has become pretty strong. And Maren, maybe you can tell us something about this dialectic, about this tradition of the separation between waking and sleeping.
Well, as Ben said, it's today we have terms like power napping. I mean, it speaks for itself. But I think it's before modernity there were many different ways of seeing sleep and dream. You have in antiquity you have Thanatos and Hypnos, which are the gods of sleep and of death, and they were treated differently. Sleep was always connected to the muses, to the arts, etc. And now, as the concept of artistry shifted, we have a shift also in there. And but I think sleep is still a very big topic in the arts, even though if we don't recognize it first, but it's really often used as a metaphor. Just think of Baudelaire, who's speaking about flânerie and meandering around and not working, and you have always had in art history and in performance practice the tendency to use these states of sleep and in-betweenness and not be productive as a strong material. So what interests me now is how did you two get to the topic of sleep? What was your intention? You described your routine a little bit, but I know that you were also interested in dreams. So maybe you can say something about it, and I'd be also interested why you used the metaphor of sleep for describing this political moment and also literary moment. So maybe we start with Ben and then, yeah.
I think I'm not sure about the exact moment where I started. I don't remember, but I think I'm always, so first of all, coming from dance, I'm always interested in the experience, like through the senses, through the body, and then being interested in different states of consciousness. And so there's like the normal consciousness, but then also when you start to breathe, what we have just experienced, that you come into a different way of sensing, or if you, be very ecstatic, or then dreaming, or like there's also, or being in virtual reality also is like a surreality, you know, there's somehow like a dream-like world. So there are many ways how to connect actually, for me, starting from the body, because the body is the biggest tool to work on the mind, you know, like everything we do to the body, and then we come to a different state. Like even if we drink alcohol, it's something we do to the body, and then we come in a different state of mind. Or, you know, if you don't eat, for example, you come into a different state of mind. After some time you get very euphoric when you have overcome the down, or yes, so this is actually like through the body as an instrument is one instrument, and like is interesting to me. So what actually can I, where can I go? That is the field of research, and then it's of course my body and my experience, and then the shared, like with the dancers. We have done huge researches about this through meditation and yoga and many things. And then also with the audience, like in workshops like that, or even in the works, like we have works where the audience goes through the works, or the audience participates, or the audience has to make the work running, or of course also classical works, but then we have worked with this kind of music because I know this music works on the whole body. And so this is my field of research, I would say, because the body is the instrument. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So part of my interest in sleep comes from a larger interest in inactivity or so-called passivity. So before I was interested in listening, for instance, and trying to put listening in dialectical relationship to speaking, right? And try to figure out what are the potentialities in listening, but also in not being productive because one is sometimes sick or one is sometimes not really feeling good, etc. You know, like all these different moments, and sleep, of course, you know, like is a continuation of this interest of what does actually passivity mean, and what is active in these passivities, right? Like, and just, you know, like to pick the thread from what Ben just said, you know, there's something receptive in the process of writing or doing art, right? Like, it's not only me who is thinking, but part of this process of writing is to learn how to receive something, to learn how to be attentive enough to receive something. And sleep is full of wonders which we can learn to receive, right? And of course, dreams are one of these wonders which one receives, and we don't know from where, like, you know. So yeah, like, so there was this interest of passivities or inactivity, and then, you know, this interest in sleep, because in sleep there's many things are happening, receptivity, etc., and the political moment. And back at that time, you know, like these twilight moments or really dark moments where the hope was huge, but the deadlock was very oppressive, right? Like it's very hard to express, you know, like from very high hopes to very down oppression, and you know, like many of my friends, they are either, you know, they became depressed, or they had to go somewhere else, or they landed in jail, or, you know, like. So working on this book was like a process of, you know, trying to stay alive, and somehow, you know, like to go through a very difficult phase, you know, which it was really a very difficult time. The lesson which was very helpful for me is, you know, like, okay, what does it mean to let go, especially in such moments, very charged and polarized moments? What does letting go mean, especially that in our modern life, you know, letting go, surrendering, not producing it, so all of these things, they are looked upon as if they are, you know, no-go, like one shouldn't surrender, one shouldn't let go, one shouldn't be So yeah, many things they came together, and somehow I felt, I'm kind of intrigued by, thinking about the potentialities of, especially political potentialities of sleep in a moment of failed revolution, right? Without being defeatist and without being nostalgic and without being, and it was a kind of a challenge, and yeah, just another aspect which was very important for me, sleep as a medium, especially dreams, they help us in this question of where has the past gone, right? Where has the people whom we knew and left us, where have they gone? What happened with the high prices which people paid and now they are not here anymore? So the process of, working through loss, right? Sleep was very helpful because, and that was my interest in dreams in this book, dreams of lost people, dreams of lost places, dreams of a past which does not go away, but comes in a different form, and this was again helpful for me because one of the difficulties which you face in these times is to think, wow, but what about all these lives which people really risked for hope, and it did not work out, or these lives they are gone, or like what to do with all of this, and I liked very much how how dreams are a medium where the past, the demands of the past, they persist and they keep coming back in different forms and stay there and does not go away. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, this is what you also mentioned in the beginning, that you are interested in thresholds also, and I think this is also what you share with Ben, who's also very much interested in thresholds and encounters with different worlds, also ghostly worlds. What I'm really intrigued about is actually you describe something like activism as a form of passiveness, which I really felt, which I really could connect to. So maybe what can we learn from those practices and from those workshops that we do together, like Ben coordinates? Maybe we can practice something like being together in a way of taking care of each other and to be able to expose this vulnerability, which is a big topic in your book as well. So yeah, what can we learn from it, from what we do discuss now, what we practice with our bodies? This would maybe be the last question before we open to the group, because everyone's getting tired, which is a good thing. So what do we learn? Can we?
I don't know what we can learn exactly. I mean, what I'm interested in, or what I think, what we should be like pay more attention is to the experience, experiencing things and giving it time. Like I think what I experienced is exactly now also in my life that it's really hard not to do something, like to give yourself, I'm trying to give myself more time. not to react directly, you know, to every email or to every question or to every also every idea I might have, you know, not to directly, yes, I do this new work, or I mean, I have realized I have made 37 works in the last 10 years. So this is crazy. This is just so crazy. You know, we have this extreme speed, and I'm trying to take a moment and just to see what comes actually, what comes out like out of my dreams, what impulse comes, and it's so hard. We're not used to this anymore. We are rather used to you know, to have a lot of stress, but we get into stress actually if we don't know what to do. And this is what you said also, this inactivity, to allow yourself to be inactive, you know, just to take the time, is I think a very, very important practice, and I'm practicing, and I'm not very good. That's the only thing I can say about myself, and I would be interested in everyone else's, like also maybe experience what you have experienced now in the little workshop, or like with this question, like what can we learn actually?
Yeah, just to add something small to this, maybe also we could learn that, you know, we are a community of the living and the dead. We are a community which does not live only in the short moment of present, but also it brings with it many other moments. And you know, like to be alive at a certain moment means to carry also with you all the other moments and all the other labor of other people who worked a lot. So, you know, I'm reminded with an African-American writer and publisher. His name is Paul Quotes. In an interview or in a conversation with Arthur Jaffa, the artist, Paul Quotes said, you know, I think a lot about the time of slavery, and I think a lot about this question: what did the people under slavery think about in the moment when they put their head on the pillow before they slept? You know, like people, enslaved people who worked hard the whole day, and they go to sleep and they know that tomorrow is another horrible day. And Paul Quotes said, you know, they imagined us, right? Like, it's as if, you know, like the past imagined a coming liberated future where people would have a better life, right? And from the perspective of today, you know, after, let's say, 13 years or something of the so-called Arab Spring, this is the near future. Many people who gave their lives were hoping for, you know, like when this near future comes and we realize, wow, but the future failed to carry the hopes which the past was looking for. Then we start to look back, but we don't look back in a nostalgic way, but we look back to learn some lessons which can help us with this deadlock. So I think, you know, I think it's very important to keep these two gazes in mind, you know, like the gaze of the past, looking for a better future, and then when this future comes and we realize that it really failed to fulfill these hopes, so we look back try to take seriously the past, hoping that we can overcome the deadlock. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thanks so much for the discussion so far. Well, we're pretty much already running out of time, and I think some people are gonna have to go to different workshops or different talks today. But maybe we can still take a couple minutes to discuss and maybe share some impressions from the workshop, if there's any comments from the audience. Yes.
Actually, I have a question, that's also fine. What is your opinion on lucid dreaming?
On lucid dreaming.
Yeah.
What's the start? It's an interesting one because it's not quite dreaming, it's not quite waking either. It's being in control of your dream.
Correct me if I'm wrong, lucid dreaming is the ability to control, to continue your dreams.
And being aware that you're dreaming.
Yeah. I don't have really much to say about this. I don't know, Ben, if you have anything to say, just jump in.
I can try. I don't have an opinion in the say of it's good or it's bad or whatever, because I cannot do it. Just I had very few moments in my life where I did it or where I had it. Sometimes it happened. So, but I'm very interested in it, I have to say, because we have been very busy with dreaming itself, and we have worked with dreams and images, and how actually images, like not in a Freudian way, but like what can these images tell you, and so on, and how you can also in an awake state work with this kind of languages. So it is an extremely interesting field, and I think also working on virtual reality somehow also is connected to this field, somehow being into, like with this glasses, and you dive into a world and you can still move, but it's still another reality. So somehow I think it's extremely interesting, and I have it on my list to explore it. That's all I can say.
Okay, thank you. Have you experienced lucid dreaming before, or do you want to say something about it for us?
I've experienced it not on purpose. It was quite funny, because every time when I was a child, every time when I woke up, when I was dreaming, I just had to think about the dream, and then I fell asleep again, and then I was back in the dream. And then I also knew that I was dreaming. But when I don't know when or why, but it stopped. And a couple of years later, I heard of lucid dreaming, and then I knew, oh wow, crazy, that it is the thing. And now I'm doing these reality checks and try to experience it again. A couple of days ago, I realized I was dreaming, but then I woke up. It's a progress.
So there's a technique to it.
Yeah.
It is a very old Tibetan technique, actually. I don't know if you know it. Like Tibetan monks really have a science about it, and you can learn it. I have researched it so far. So yes, it's really on my to-do list for very, very soon. Yes.
I wanted to, especially to hear your opinion, because you were talking about passivity and inactivity, and I've I've heard about an opinion from another author who said that lucid dreaming is you're not surrendering because you are active in your dreams and you're not passive while you lucid dream. So she had a quite bad opinion about it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have really any experience in lucid dreaming, and thank you very much for sharing, your experience with it. I think the notion of losing control and staying in control is sometimes more complex than it appears. I think, it's not about choosing that, in this moment I'll choose to lose control, and in other moment I'll choose to be in control. Rather, it's about to go through a very serious experience until it leads us to a deadlock, and this deadlock, puts pressure on us and forces us to go through detours, a lot of detours, and this is the experience of losing control and gaining control. You don't choose to lose control, but you go through a very important experience which leads you to this moment, and then you find yourself, wow, okay, so this experience cannot go farther without losing control. It's not a matter of choice, right? Like it's like you hate something and then you realize, I have to let go. I'm falling asleep. I have to let it go. There is no other way. Otherwise, I will be paranoid, or I will be, I will lose contact with reality. I will, like all of these things. So, yeah, I don't know if it makes sense.
Okay, thank you. More questions, more comments from the others? Yes.
What I think I have to say that on German, because German is natural. Mich interessiert, dass auch da eure Meinung zu dem Idee war, dass auch, wie wichtig ist auch dieses Ruhe und Inaktivität und Schlafen und das Genießen und das auch teilweise inaktiv sein, das ist wichtig für die Menschen. Im Vergleich zu dem, wie es eigentlich Privileg ist, also so das haben zu können, das auch politisch gedacht, dass welche Menschengruppen haben dieses Privilegien überhaupt, die Zeit zu nehmen, sich fallen zu lassen, im Alltag auch diesen Snap nehmen können oder am Wochenende überhaupt das genießen zu können. Mich interessiert eure Gedanken über die Sleep Justice.
Ja, nee, danke. Also ich glaube, das ist ein sehr wichtiger Punkt. Also was mir einfällt, ist zwei Sachen. Ne? Also es gibt ein Bourgeois-Konzept von Ruhe und von Gelassenheit und von Schlaf etc. Aber das ist nicht der einzige Konzept oder so von was Inaktivität bedeutet. Also ich glaube, es gibt einen Raum für ein ein anti-bourgeois Konzept von Inaktivität. Und der zweite Punkt ist, ich glaube, oft machen wir dieser Fehler, dass wir glauben, dass working class people are simple people or are people who, you know, don't get bored, or, you know, so oft we kind of, I think Rancière really wrote a very nice, many of his books, you know, like about this, that the worker can also write poems and have a very sophisticated way of thinking things, and I think also from this perspective, you know, people who work hard, it's I don't think it is luxury to. You remember we just mentioned Paul quotes, and when he was wondering, you know, like during enslavement, what did enslaved people think about before they went to sleep, when they just put their head on the pillow? And his answer was, they imagined the future, right? So I think it's not, although I totally see the point, and really I'm thankful for bringing this, right? There is a bourgeois thing, you know, in happiness or in rule or in, but I think it's necessary to insist on having a counter-bourgeois concept of happiness and of inactivity and yeah.
I agree also that there's on one side there is this really important question what you raised, and on the other side I think there's also that we can say that actually dreaming is a universal language, and not only all different kind of humans dream, but also animals dream, and or let's say they think in image language, and also we know by now that also plants think or are in this conscious state of perceiving images and communicating with each other and with different plants through images. So actually this state of not being in this conscious mind, what we think is the one, the only one, where we are exchanging, is the universe. This is actually the exception. And the other state of the image state is the universal one in the whole world, maybe, I don't know, maybe in the whole cosmos, probably. So I think we are giving so much attention to the only state, and actually maybe the other state is so much more, or it's not much more interesting than we think, or that we give attention. Yeah.
Yes, what I actually take from these two answers is indeed sleep is something that just happens to everybody. Everybody can do it, everybody must do it, and so there's also this idea in the book of sleep that I find interesting, that comes up in a couple of places, that it's some kind of affliction that sort of strikes you and that sort of washes over you. So in a sense, I guess, one part of your question was this sort of, I guess, how can you sleep, you know? What is the conditions for sleep also? So there's this hope for sleep and this need for sleep that everybody has, but I think maybe another part is indeed what do we need to sleep? Is there some kind of social or political conditions that form some kind of sleep?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, like the question also refers to the question of reproduction, right? Like, or simply, you know, how to stay alive in a hostile environment, or in an environment or in conditions which it's very hard to stay alive, right? Like, and I think sleep and activities, they are practices which communities, they are, you know, to stay alive means to have some measurements of reproduction, or, you know, like regeneration, or you know, and it's a matter of life or death, these techniques, right? Like, if you don't have these techniques, you will, you know, you will not stay alive. and I think that the political and social necessity of techniques of reproduction, or techniques of regeneration, it comes really from this background that without such techniques, a life form would come to an end, right? Like, and to fight against this, part of fighting against this is to think about how to reproduce, how to sustain, how to not only to produce, right? Like, because reproduction is looking into the collective life, and how this collective life can grow up and not just producing commodities. So the shift from production to, you know, reproduction, or the shift from just thinking about the labor of production to the labor of reproduction, is very essential to stay alive, I think.
Okay, any more quick questions? I think we're actually very much over time already. Thank you for the participation. Thank you for the workshop, Ben. Thank you for being here, Haytham. Thank you, Maren. All right, if there's any more questions or need to talk, I think we're going to stick around for a minute, but this is it for the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you as well. Thank you, everyone. I would just quickly like to warmly invite you, because the program of the day is not over yet. At 6:30, there will be a talk about AI, and there will be a performance where also tickets are still available tonight at 8, called Anima TM, and both of this is at PACT Zollverein, so this is just right over there, so a few hundred meters. So of course you can still, of course, stay a little bit here, but over at PACT there also the bar is open, there's food, there's drinks, and there is very interesting talks and performances, so you're warmly invited.